Perhaps fighting and sticking up for someone are not always the same thing. Wouldn't it just be me to find something in the margin? Doesn't it feel great, however, when someone has your back? Even though you're going through a rough time, is it not comforting to have people step up and say or show you are not alone in this? By the way, in case you're not as cool as I am. Jesus always befriended and advocated for those who are marginalized, left out, ignored, or judged as less worthy. You see that? One more, by the way. Empathy at its deepest level is often the result of been there, done that. You ever go to a race for cure for cancer? There are a couple runners, perhaps, who are there just because they like to run. Remember, I ran 11 marathons. Those people are weird, who just are there to want to run. But if you actually ask them why they're there, they're going to tell you because someone they love has or had cancer. We're fairly self-absorbed, and we really understand things when they happen to us. That's just part of our sinful self. Empathy at its deepest level is often the result of been there, done that. And so I was thinking about this, is that there's a difference between fighting. If your kid comes home and says, I just wanted to fight today because I didn't like the shape of that person's face. Or if you got into a little skirmish and mom and dad ask you why, and you say, well, I actually stuck up for somebody. You can disagree with me. This is a free country. But I delineate the two, and maybe because I've been there, done that. I've told you before, but a lot of people online are new, and we reach all across the world, and so I'm not getting old and retelling stories, but it's important for people to know I live with my grandmother in a small town in southeastern Minnesota. My brother and myself, my dad was in between calls, and my late grandmother was incredibly wealthy. And sometimes it's kind of hard to be incredibly wealthy in a small town because there might be some people who don't like you. And so I've told you that for 3 years, every single day, 4 kids in particular, 4 boys bullied me. Not kinda, a lot. And I'm not going to go into that episode. What I'm going to simply say to you as I thought about this week is that there were people, there were students, there were colleagues, there were people who lived by me who went to that school who knew. They walked by. I saw teachers walk by. And no one did anything. What they did to me is one thing. And with some therapy, I got better. What's really hard is when the people who weren't part of it, who saw it, but also the people who were big who saw it, who didn't stick up for me. So by the grace of God, my dad gets a new call. We moved to Hayward, Minnesota, which is 5 miles from Albert Lea. That's where I went to high school with 687 kids in my class. I was really happy that when I moved to a new place, they didn't pick on me, which I realized was probably episodic because of where I was, and now I had a new place to dwell, but I was also insecure. Yes, those things follow you. When I entered 7th grade. But I thought this week, and you can think about these things when you're 58 years old, thought this week that there was a moment in Sunday school that changed my life, and it's not exactly what you think it is. I was in 7th grade Sunday school, and my teacher, Neil Score, was the wrestling coach at Albert Lea High School. And one day, he came into the room and he didn't have his lectern, and so he said, well, you know, when I'm at school, I like to have my podium, so, well, a couple of you go up and get a podium. Go upstairs. Well, it's my dad's church, you know. So I knew exactly where it was. I said, I got it. He goes, take somebody. I got it. So I get the podium. Almost every church my father was at didn't have a custodian. Well, yes, my brother and I. So I picked it up and I brought it down and I put it down and he looks at it and goes, just you? And I said, yeah. he lifted it up and he said, "What sports are you in?" I said, I play basketball. He said, "Why?" I said, "Baseball and track." He said, "You should wrestle. You should wrestle." I had one more year of basketball, and then I wrestled. And then I lifted weights. And then I felt good about myself, and I kind of forgot about what had happened before. And all I can tell you is that in 10th and a half grade, there was a young person in Albert Lea High School who tried to pick on David Andrew Lilliard, and it did not go the way that he intended. It wasn't violent, but it was clear cut. And I've never, ever entered anything after. However, here's what my point is. I have seen children, I have seen adults get picked on ever since I was picked on, and I always stick up. I don't care if I have to run 2 miles if I see it. I am going to stick up because I know what it feels like. If you know what it's like, you will not idly sit by. If you've ever been poor, you understand the plight of the poor. If you've ever been marginalized, you understand. But the problem with many of us in this zip code, as educated as we are, as much as we have, we don't necessarily understand, but may we try to understand what it's like to be on the other side of the ledger. And we speak up. We care for the least of these. That's how Jesus lived. That's how Jesus wants us to live.